All right, Shalom Israel, giving all praises to Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushai, by Hashem Rakakadash, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahushai, double honors to the apostles, elders, bishops, great millstone, my salutation to the brother chief, word for the hopeful elect, soon to be elect, most high will, and to the hopeful still elect, Shalom, blessings, man, women, children, contrite spirits, returning back to the most high. Continue to exalt those names. Yahweh, he is to be. The Son, Yahushai, he delivers. And we always say in the name of the Holy Spirit. And this is the BET Awards, and it's my day to do music, Operation Matrix. And I'll go into some other videos later on. Probably another short video after this. I don't want to make this too long. But you see this, you got Kevin Hart up there. You got Robin Thicke. You got some of these, the entertainers, and this is the 2025 BET Award. And it's sponsored by Walmart. And Walmart is basically, it's you look up Walmart, you see they'll mention the CEO of Walmart, but it's a share company. I asked Alexa, who owns Walmart?
Walmart is a publicly traded company owned by many individual shareholders and other large investment companies. Walmart's current CEO is C. McMillan.
So you got these shareholders that got all the investment as a unit, and they call CEOs. But I asked Alexa, does Jewish people own Walmart?
I'm not quite sure how to help you with that.
Well, I looked it up and they said no. Alexa, is Walmart owned by Jews?
From Fool.com. Walmart is a publicly traded family-owned business, the largest such business in the world, as the company is controlled by the Walton family.
The Walton family. I looked them up, and they said they're not Jews, but they're shareholders, which goes back into, the so-called Jews, they got their religious proclamation of being the real Jews and are not. We know they're the synagogue of Satan. But of course, they're children of Edom, which the so-called, the Jewish people, they go back to Edom. They have children, and they have, Edom as a whole nation having children growing up in their prosperity. So they're not going to be, they might not be called Jews. And I looked up Walton family, and it said they're Christian based. And Christian, they don't let this devil fool you. To them, they go by many, what would you call it? Many religious sects. And they all the same people, whether they be Christian, call themselves Christians, or Jews, they really the same people. They eat them. So it's kind of like the land rush. They just pick a religion that they want to, but they have to pick, of course, the top so-called religion, which is being of Israel and Jew status, because that's the chosen people, and they know that. So that's why they take up on that. But the Christian is basically a Roman Catholic doctrine, that was Americanized. Because if you really go back further in history, the more Catholicism, it just means universal pretty much. But if you go back to the origins of the Roman Church, of course, it was based on pagan religion, but it was based on us knowing, so to speak, that we Israelites, or some foundation of us being knitted closer to the history of us as a whole being Israel. So Christian means the anointed ones. It means, Christ means the anointed one, Mashiach. So when you see that in the Bible and say, well, the church Antioch, this is when they were first called Christians, That means anointed ones. It ain't got nothing to do with Christianity of America. But it does have similarities because of what the origin of the real meaning of Christianity or Christian, you know. So, you know, these people are forever, like the brother's been coming out with information about the Black Boule. And my point in with this too is that they're not talking about this had nothing to do with the war, and this had nothing to do with, like, this is folly said in great dignity, you know. And these are the Black Boule people. Even in this, I watched segments of this, and Kevin Hart said no more after party. He said he did it on a Monday, so you had to go back to work Tuesday. But that was a joke because nobody really works in the industry. They don't work like a 9 to 5 where they had to go to work tomorrow, you know? So people, they make people think that they living like basic lives, so to speak, in this black entertainment world. Like they go through the same thing as the so-called black people in the hoods and ghettos and all that, you know, which they don't, you know. They taken care of by these damn devils. They sponsored by these damn devils. So they don't go through the same. So if you got these motherfuckers in the industry and the BET wars, and they talking about, and then they come out with an album talking about how much they struggling and all that, and how much pain it is, and then, like, you know, to grab the ghetto, the hood audience, they liars, man. You know, it's like, you know, Snoop Dogg, he's a cool dude. You know, like everybody know that you know, he ain't really just promoting gangsterism. But how long you gonna, you know, just have that as your image, knowing that you don't do that shit? You know what I'm saying? And knowing that you really, in your mind, you really trying to bring them together, but you still promote, you know, that. And it's just the same with all these artists. I ain't just saying Snoop. So this is folly, and I'm gonna go to that scripture. Um, actually looked up um, the word folly. I'm gonna get the definition.
Strong's H200, Eveleth,
Eveleth, which is awathla. Awalath, right here. Tha, which is, put it together, awalath. Foolishness, folly, and for it's a bound up in mind of boy to be removed only by rod of discipline. See, only to be removed only by the rod of discipline. They don't have no discipline, and not by no serious, you know, because it mentions, it's a scripture that mentions the rod of the wicked shall not rest on the rod of the righteous, lest he put forth his iniquity, forth his hand to iniquity. It says we were going to rule them with a rod of iron. So it says about your son, he shall feel the rod often. It ain't no fucking no fag ass shit, man. It's talking about, you know, like you have a rod, like a disciplinary stick or discipline, a form of discipline. Discipline. They don't have it. It's been removed. So these people are buck wild. Even though Kevin Hart made a statement saying that, yeah, we make sure nobody go to the after parties, and he was referring to, subliminally referring to the Diddy parties and all that. But they all about that shit. And you could see in the audience, some people got kind of shady looks, like they were being called out. But that's the harshest thing they'll go through. I mean, you know, not harshest, but that is just the feel a little bit like a shift in the seat. That's the only thing they'll get. You know what I'm saying? Or they might get roasted or whatever, and somebody, you know, they feel somebody go too far, but they don't give a damn because there's so many of them, and the camera sways back and forth, and they're not really highlighted as, yeah, let's attack this dude and bring him down. They at least do that. They did Bill Cosby, like they did Michael Jackson when they kind of confined him in this space and to look at them like some kind of weird, you know, child trafficker or pedophile or a rapist or something. But that's the only thing that when it comes from them, but they don't have discipline within their own sect, within their own circle, and it'll never be that. That's why these female, you know, you had Glorilla. I mean, not Glorilla. I think she won an award. I think Glorilla and Doshi, that new demon bitch. You know, she was brought out by Lauryn Hill, which Lauryn Hill is an icon, female icon figure that was prominent in the street concerning um, the moral code, concerning like we need to change, we need to do better. Um, and she brought Dochi out, which she's one of them ratchet little females that come out, perform naked and so forth, and all that. So there's no discipline. It says where there's no counsel, the people fall. So they're not coming together talking about like, damn, we need to do better. The world is changing. It's getting digital. The war is happening. Something's going on in the earth, and we have to repent. There's nothing that personified tears down house built by, let's see, contrasted with, and then you gotta look up these words in Syrian Hebrew to know the actual uh, full meaning of what they said in that particular section of the layout. Silliness. You know, our people are silly. You know, that used to be a word that used to be used a lot. You silly, with it, goofy. Now we use goofy, goofball, goofy. That same thing as silly. Yep. Job 5:2, it says, "For wrath killeth the foolish man, and envy slayeth the silly one." You know, a lot of these women are silly. This is silly. Let me see. What's the definition for silly? Why does it do this, man? I hate this new layout of the etymology, but it's all good, man. I wish it had a different layout to where you just go to it. You didn't have to go to that. Okay, silly having or showing lack of common sense or judgment, like that dude that the elder called out. He's like, "Yeah, that's common sense. You ain't supposed to do." Well, Jake ain't. Jake is silly. He's a lack of common sense. He don't have or judgment, which is go back to reprobate without judgment. They don't have true judgment. They're silly. So yeah, they don't have no common sense. So you gotta tell them anyway. Not that we preaching like, you know, you don't what do you say, cast your pearls before swine, but at least you warn them, you know. And I want to mention that too, because Tazaryak was on 85 South Show, and I ain't watched it all, but you know, he's kind of a representation of the One West, and you know, goes back to IUSUPK, which, you know, going back to One West and IUSUPK, it was, you know, One West. It wasn't no branches before that. You know what I'm saying, so to speak. You know, so it was kind of like, now it's kind of like they still feel that they represent the real school, and that's why they come against GMS. But you know, you grow. Of course, you grow. You know, out of the school, because you could, like, it's just like when you plant a seed. You know, it's not gonna be a seed no more. It's not gonna look like it's gonna grow into a plant, and it's in the scriptures, like, you know, plant the seed and see what is. Everything has a seed, but let it, when it grows. You know, Most High should put a body on it that it's supposed to be. So it ain't gonna be that same seed. It's gonna grow and to, you know, would eventually become whatever it's supposed to be. So, you know, they think GMS is going out of the way of the old school way One West, and that's not true. You know, because GMS, you know, my personal opinion, that's what the Most High wants His church to grow into. Because when we were all young, you know, we were all young, man. But you know, definitely if you on a podcast or that's broadcasted across the world, and I don't want to get to just I'm gonna say something about it. Just like you're not gonna be dwelling with people that are not of the same mind, you know. And he's been on this show a few times, so you know that going back, and it was a lot of that going on, you know. But even GMS, starting with Apostle Hart, he was on this one show, and that was it. I mean, he ain't like he didn't take the bag. But a lot of these men that taking the bag, I ain't saying that they took the bag, or even what kind of bag they took if they did take a bag. But if they did take a bag, you took a bag. But GMS didn't take a bag, you know. And I forgot that show that Apostle Tahar was on, but you know he could have kept that energy of being, you know, on TV shows and broadcasts. He could have been easy on this or you know some of those things that IUIC was on, Nathaniel was on, but you know, you can't have a personality of men. You know, Most High talks about men's persons. I just want to say a little something about that, but I was actually gonna do a video, but I don't know if it hits me. You know, but common sense, and I looked at word common sense. Originally, an internal mental power supposed to unite, reduced to a common perception. The impression conveyed by the five physical senses. Yeah, Jake is losing a few of it. Like Tupac said, he's missing a few screws. Like he's missing a few of the five senses, physical senses. So yeah, the thus ordinary understanding without which one is foolish or insane. Yeah, Jake is foolish, and he'll call himself a fool. Yeah, you a fool, man. Cause you know, meaning you ain't gonna pay attention to this war. You're not gonna pay attention, you know, to the real things that's going on. The draft, the immigrate, you know, the laws that are coming into play. The draconian law. I mean, how drastic does it need to get? The famines that are happening, the slowly progressing trouble that's coming that we talk about, Jacob's trouble. They're gonna milk this BT thing, and you know have a black church. You see, all this shit is connected. He called out Kirk Franklin. It was a joke. He's a comedian, man. He called out Kirk Franklin for twerking and stuff like that. What he's doing, he's like, quit that twerking and all that, and you know, Kirk Franklin just laughed it off. You know, because they're not really serious about discipline. You know, they're not really serious about getting right. So, you know, even if Kevin Hart doesn't, they'll still go to those parties. Diddy's in jail, but those kind of parties still go on. Now he mentioned the parties. He said no more after parties. You know who has parties too, or known to have parties? Jamie Foxx, and he was in the audience. You know, so um, and I want to pause it. I mean not pause it, but I want to silence it because just to show you, so they won't get me for. So he's another, and he receives award. I think Snoop Dogg received award. Him, Mariah Carey, a few things he mentioned, and then this K dude, K cannot dude. He's a known homosexual. I mean, nobody knew at first, but he's a mo. But who's throwing the parties? If Diddy ain't throwing the parties, who's throwing the parties? Jamie Foxx. you know. And they, it's all a, you know, it's all a game, man. And war is going on, and they're not warning our people. So the Most High gonna destroy their asses, man. You're supposed to warn our people of what's coming, man. And the apostles, starting with the apostles on their elders on down, they've been warning you for years and years. Most High is tired of it. He's like, yeah, I sent my prophets out there, and well, we ain't seen. No, if you say you haven't seen them, you're a damn lie, because the internet is out, and people look. The Most High got people's spirit looking for stuff, looking for information, looking for entertainment, and then you're gonna pass some Israelites. You're gonna pass the truth, and it might not necessarily be GMS, but it's gonna be that you're an Israelite and you need to, you know, get on the highways and byways. You need to teach or warn the people, and that really comes from GMS. But it'll lead you. It may lead you to GMS, but you're gonna know that you're an Israelite. You're gonna know about that we need to come back to the Most High, and then you keep searching, and you'll run into more extreme events, more extreme teachings, warnings, and so forth. So these people are a joke, man. And they do well in their craft. They do well as actors, do well as singers. Got Stevie Wonder up there. You can't deny that. You have Mariah Carey receiving her her plaque as a legendary icon. You know, um, you know, and Snoop. With I used to listen to Snoop when I was young. Like, he had great music, but it was promoting the gangster life, and it was promoting wickedness. But now you could people could kind of laugh at it, because you know that was then. It's so old school now. It's like, yeah, yeah, okay, we get it, Snoop. We get it. A lot of these entertainers, we get it. You know, but they still um, continuing that joy of that passion, and that's supposed to be the old man. They supposed to, like, nah, that was the old me. And Snoop Dogg, he did his Christian album or whatever, his gospel album. That ain't shit, man. They still in the Black Boule. They still belong to this club. They still belong to this club, man. And they're not promoting real prophetic. Um, man, I always, I try to pick the right word for doctrine, or it's called something else. But they're not, you know, they're promoting their entertainment. They're promoting their songs, old school songs that old men, and they're not talking about anything that concerns what's going on today, that our people need to know about. You know, the trouble that's coming, the MOTB, the digital world. They'll advertise it. They'll make commercials about it, but you know, they they won't tell our people that, nah, this is not right. This is governmental, and they're trying to kill us. They're trying to take us out. And they kind of, and if they do, just like Cat Williams, they kind of make it like an imaginary um, ghost like entity, or you know, fashion of things that's just invisible, that you can't really pinpoint. They don't say names. They don't say Rothschild. They don't say Rockefeller. They don't call people. They don't call the so-called white man out. And they're what you call it, supported by a lot of Edomites. A lot of Edomites love them. They love their work, and the higher ups, they kind of love. I mean, like their work too, but they know that they're slaves. They know that they're under them, and if they get out of line, you know, they coming for you. So they don't want to mess that up. So they remain in their circle. They remain in a Black Boule environment, and that's why so-called white man let them have BET. He don't care, long as BET is a slave to them, to the rich, to the so-called white people, the elite bankers. And they making money off of this all this entertainment. They making money. They don't really have no money no more. They just stand in the limelight. It's about really being famous and shit. They don't really got no money in their pockets, and they're not really worth anything, you know. And a lot of these that they show that are being presented and doing the presenting are comedians. Jamie Foxx, Tisha Campbell, they play role play. You know, these singers are Ti and said the singers are actors too because they make movies. That's why it's easy for them to move into movies and and things like that because they are already making videos like mini movies. So, you know, and you got people like Ti that might seem intelligent. He got a savvy words he be, and they be thinking like, yeah, he's smart. So they influence. You got YouTube call them talking a lot because I'm trying to explain Salaki, but you got influencers, man. You know, that our people looked up to and enough to where a lot of most of our people are taken by this stuff. You know, and you'll have somebody gangster as hell talking about nigga, I shoot a nigga and kill a nigga and fuck that dope shit. And I mean, I'm, and he'll be in the BET Awards, receiving a plaque, or receiving an iconic award or whatever, or receiving or in the audience is and looking like a puppy dog and shit. But you was just talking shit about going to a nigga's house and taking his stash and killing him and all that, or see these people are a joke, man, and they got the money to do it. They fake ass mafia members, man. They third, fourth leg mafia members, because they got a little power and shit, and they will take somebody out. That's like P Diddy. He was taking people out. Like he'll have your ass done. You could do that with money, but you ain't shit to the elites. You just a figure of their imagination. When they want to get rid of you, they'll replace your ass, and it'll be another Ti. It'll be another Snoop Dogg. It'll be another Kevin Hart. That's how they do it. So these people, they they promote folly, and they live in their folly, and they distract our people from what's really going on, and it's an attraction and distraction, from what's really going on. Nobody, ain't nobody. They'll talk about the war. They'll do a whole comedic stand-up session, what have you, about war. Like Cat Williams, I think one of his uh, stand-ups it was called World War III, but he really never got into depth of what really, what was really going on behind the curtains. And now we're in the brink of third world war, a possible all-out nuclear war, and these motherfuckers are still partying and shit. And it says that in the scriptures they were marrying and giving into marriage like the days of Noah, into the ark, into the very last, you know. And Kendrick Lamar received that big thing that it seemed like he was rebelling against the United States and then calling out Drake for calling out Drake, saying he's an A minor and all that. And you think they give a damn? Drake is rich as hell. He's probably one of the richest entertainers in the world and shit. You think he gonna give a damn? They play chess and they play just like these elites. They'll make you think they're against each other. Meanwhile, they're drinking champagne behind curtain closed doors. But the celebrities do that too. They learn from them. They're the black Boule. So that could have been set up. But if it wasn't, I mean, still you got Kendrick Lamar getting an album of the year or receiving the best awards or something. Getting a few awards for that. You know, and then all of these people tied into some kind of human trafficking or child trafficking. So how, why is he getting awards and shit? So it's all a fucking game, man. The world is a stage, like they always say. But, he did it good on the album, but, you know, I'm past all this shit, man. Like it's ready. I'm ready for destruction, man, on this place of folly. Anyway, I didn't want it to be this long. Hopefully, it was edifying. Shalom.